Hello, this is Irina K, and welcome back to my channel Astrobabushka. I am a Vedic astrologer and I apply ancient, more than 3,000 years old knowledge to modern times. And today in this video, I want to speak about the moon on November 20th, because it stands at a sensitive point of the year. The Sun, Moon, and Mercury all gather at 4 degrees of sidereal Scorpio, inside nakshatra Anuradha. Mercury is in the heart of the Sun. It's called Kazimi. So that gives this new moon a sharper note than usual. Anuradha belongs to Saturn, and that brings a strong sense of discipline and the consequences into this lunation. It asks people and nations to pay attention to what has been neglected. Scorpio in general marks the deep interior of collective life. It is where motives are examined and where hidden currents move with more force. When the lights of the sky enter this sign together, they often expose the conditions under the surface. This does not always happen as a sudden reveal. At times, it works like a slow release of pressure that people only notice when the tone around them begins to shift. Now, Mercury's presence in the heart of the Sun points to a moment when information becomes compact and unavoidable and very, very clear. Kazimi strengthens the voice of Mercury, and in Scorpio, that voice tends to deal with uncomfortable material. It pushes governments, corporations, and institutions to handle matters that cannot be postponed any longer. Anuradha itself carries the theme of loyalty and alliances. Its symbol is the lotus, rising from dark waters. A reminder that stability requires steady attention during periods of turmoil. Under this nakshatra, there is usually some concern with bonds between nations, allies, and partners. If those ties have been strained, this new moon may reveal where the fabric is thinning. A second layer to understand better this new moon comes from trine that forms between the new moon cluster in Scorpio and the Saturn-Neptune pair in Pisces. The degree connection is tight, and that gives weight to the alignment. Trines often create channels that allow ideas and consequences to move without obstruction. Saturn in Pisces is preparing to stand still in the end of November and turn direct. So when Saturn slows down, the world often feels a sense of waiting, the silence before storm. Structures become heavy, decisions acquire more gravity. This upcoming direct motion gives the new moon a background note or tone of preparation to something big coming up in December specifically. So check out my video about December square between Mars and Saturn, and around the same day, Neptune also stations direct. So this new moon, it's like an opening a portal for what's coming in December, as well as other next couple months, but specifically for that square. Now, Neptune, again, it deepens this mood around Saturn. When these two are in close contact, and we've been feeling it for the last year, there's often a struggle between what is real and what has been imagined or hoped for or hidden. Pisces adds a soft cover over the events, but Saturn pierces through it. Together, they pull attention toward unfinished stories, unclear narratives, or collective illusions that can no longer hold their shape. The trine from Scorpio feeds information straight into this area. For the world stage, it often leads to questions about trust, transparency, responsibility. This new moon can open a corridor where political systems begin to reveal where they are overextended. Economic forecasts might be adjusted in a more sober direction. Institutions that relied on vague promises may face pressure to define their plans with more precision. In some regions, this may arrive as a shift in leadership tone, where leaders begin to speak more plainly about the challenges ahead. The stationary phase of Saturn also affects timelines. When Saturn prepares to move forward, governments tend to revisit agreements that were left unresolved earlier in the year. Some nations may return to stalled negotiations. Others may take a firmer stance in their foreign policies. This is especially true for countries where water, borders, or maritime concerns play a central role, or has been played a central role in the last few months, since Pisces often reflects broad geographic boundaries and supply chains that move across seas. Now, Scorpio's influence suggests that intelligence operations or hidden diplomatic work become active beneath the surface. Some of these efforts may seek to prevent wider conflicts. Others may attempt to redirect existing tensions. It is a time when strategies are rewritten rather quietly behind the closed doors, and the consequences may emerge only in the following weeks. For the collective mood, this new moon marks a turning point in perception. People may feel less tolerant of confusion. They may demand clear leadership. Conversations that were avoided earlier in the autumn, in the fall, might finally be addressed, actually. Media narratives can shift to a more investigative tone. At times, they can produce discomfort, yet it also opens the way for correction and for clear pictures overall. Economically, markets may respond with caution, especially where speculation has been loose. Saturn's direct station often brings a reality check and points to the need for more conservative planning. Again, industries tied to water, shipping, oil, and infrastructure may become more prominent in public discussions, either due to regulation or unexpected events. On societal level, the trine between Scorpio and Pisces, again, both signs are watery signs, just a reminder, connects private and public concerns. Matters involving public health, institutional care, or vulnerable populations might draw renewed focus. Scorpio tends to highlight what has been avoided, and Pisces often deals with the collective body. So their interaction can reveal weak points in systems meant to provide support and care. The weeks that follow this new moon may feel like a quiet tightening of the world's attention. Many events will unfold without dramatic noise, but their long-term impact may be significant. For nations, it is time to clarify priorities and strengthen the foundations that will be tested as Saturn moves forward and prepare for square with Mars. When we look at how this new moon touches national charts, the picture becomes more detailed. Each country receives the same lunation, yet the tone changes through the houses and the natal personal planets of charts that are involved. So I noticed that in the national chart of Japan, the new moon falls in the first house exactly over natal Mars. Mars here rules the ascendant and sixth house. And so this lunation turns attention towards matters of identity, public direction, health systems, labor concerns, and the functioning of essential services. A new moon over ascendant often marks a shift in national mood when Mars is the planet involved in the change. The change tends to be firm and direct. It can show a period when the government reassesses security measures, military policy, or internal discipline. At the same time, the rulers of the 10th, 4th, and 8th houses come into play through Sun, Moon, and Mercury. And so this combination very, multi-layered, and it can draw the focus toward land, industry, leadership, and the distribution of responsibility between central and regional structures. Next chart that caught my attention is the inauguration chart of Emmanuel Macron, and the new moon falls in the 5th house here and forms a clear opposition to natal Mercury in the 11th house. So Mercury rules the 3rd and 12th houses in this chart, and this axis often highlights communication, alliances, and the way information circulates through institutions. A new moon in the 5th can raise questions about national direction, generational issues, education, or creative industries. The opposition to natal Mercury in the 11th points to the relationship between the government and wider networks, including parliamentary groups and international associations. It can mark a period when decisions made by the leadership encounter resistance or require special adjustment or special attention. Next chart that caught my attention is Pakistan, and it's happening in the 8th house, and Ketu stands there, natal Ketu, and this new moon lands directly on it. So such a contact usually brings attention to matters that are already fragile. The 8th house concerns shared resources, debt, foreign support, and the deep understructure of the state. So with Ketu involved, there's often a sense of detachment or a shift away from older arrangements. This lunation may expose weaknesses in agreements tied to finance, aid, or regional security. It can also bring a stark form of clarity that pushes the country to reevaluate long-standing commitments. The next chart that caught my attention was the inauguration chart of Taiwan. And the new moon enters here the 5th house and stands in opposition to a group of planets in the 11th house, which are Jupiter, Sun, and Venus. So these planets rule 6, 9, 2nd, 4th, and 11th houses. So this creates a strong tension between public expression, civic values, and the expectations of allied nations. A new moon here in the 5th house often triggers debates about education, social cohesion, and the direction of national culture. The opposition to the 11th house, very similar as in inauguration chart of Emmanuel Macron, it can bring diplomatic pressure or policy questions that arise through partnerships and international participation. Jupiter's involvement adds some weight since it rules houses connected with service, foreign matters, and ideology. Next chart that this new moon might trigger is a chart of Palestine. Here it's happening in the 4th house with an exact opposition to Jupiter in 10th. So Jupiter rules the 5th and 8th, and a 4th house lunation brings the focus on land, population, security, inner life of the state. It tends to expose the emotional and material foundations of a nation. And so when it meets with a Jupiter in the 10th by direct opposition, questions of authority, leadership, and response of the international community become central. This alignment can show a period when internal conditions and external demands might collide, creating a need for clear direction and stronger administrative structure. So each of these national charts that I mentioned interacts with the new moon in its own way. And I only mentioned those because if I go over all the charts, it will take forever. And also I noticed where the lunation triggers the exact points. But we see that the pattern is similar. Scorpio pushes hidden matters to the surface, while the trine to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces filters every event through questions of order, responsibility, and clarity. Now, as Saturn prepares to slow down and prepare to move direct, this country may find themselves adjusting their course either by choice or by circumstance, as the sky asks for a more grounded approach. So just to close up this video, this November lunation stance is the final preparatory point before the winter alignments. The sky is asking for order, clarity, and discipline, and Anuradha reminds us that strength grows from loyalty, consistency, and respect for boundaries that hold partnerships together. The Sun, Moon, and Mercury in Scorpio brings this courage to look beneath the surface, and Saturn, waiting to turn direct, ensures that the result of these insights will not be ignored. Please don't miss my next video where I will go over all rising signs for this new moon. Bye.